precisely 1:15. This is the news on Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News is edited by Catherine Pereira, read by Sabrina Zawahir. The headlines. President inaugurates Women's Healthcare Centre at Kilinochchi Hospital. The President says several measures have been taken to safeguard the women's rights. The Disaster Management Centre says that 44,398 people of 19 districts have been affected by the prevailing bad weather condition. The Ministry of Power says that 431,500 power disruption have been reported due to the heavy rains. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka issued broad guidelines to licensed banks. And in world news, Kenya pleased to arrive in Haiti in 3 weeks. Now the local news in detail. The President says that several measures have been taken to safeguard the women's rights. A separate commission will be appointed to implement conditions to empower women legally. He made these remarks while opening the Centre of Excellence for Women's Healthcare at the District General Hospital in Kilinochchi this morning. This project, costing 5,320 million rupees, is in line with the government's initiative to enhance health sector facilities nationwide. It has been funded by the Government of Netherlands. He also stated that the Kilinochchi town has achieved a vast progress. In addition, the government has planned to develop Manankulam area as an investment zone as well. The Disaster Management Centre says that 44,398 people of 19 districts have been affected by the prevailing bad weather condition. Currently, 188 persons of 51 families are staying in temporary centres. The basic facilities are provided for them. 2,797 houses have been damaged due to the heavy rains. 7 deaths have been reported while 13 persons have been injured. Several roads are impassable due to falling of trees. Director of the Disaster Management Centre, Pradeep Kodipille, said that people living in the areas that have been issued landslide warnings should be vigilant on this regard. The Department of Irrigation says that risk of overflowing of Nilwala River, Deduru Oya, are increased. The engineer of the Disaster Management Unit, Engineer SPS Sugiswara, said 5 sluice gates of Deduru Oya have been opened. The Ministry of Power says that 431,500 power disruption have been reported due to the heavy rain experienced from last Tuesday to 3 p.m. yesterday. Out of this, 330,000 cases of power disruptions have been re-established. The Electricity Board said that all workers are engaged in their service to re-establish the electricity supply continuously. This news is brought to you by Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing local news. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka issued broad guidelines to licensed banks to further strengthen the functions of already established post-COVID-19 revival units and reformulate such units as business revival units. The enhanced scope of proposed BRUs will facilitate sustainable revival of viable businesses affected by the extraordinary macroeconomic conditions and ensure the proper handling of the increased impaired assets of licensed banks. The central bank sought relevant stakeholder views, including the banking industry and the Chamber of Commerce, when formulating these guidelines. The challenging macroeconomic conditions prevailed during the recent years have led to disrupting the income-generating activities of businesses, adversely impacting the ability of borrowers to duly repay their loans and thereby impairing the recovery process of licensed banks. Thus, the setting up of BRUs is considered imperative to assist both performing and non-performing borrowers of licensed banks whose businesses are fundamentally viable to revive. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Vedamahatmya.
Commissioner General of Examinations Amit Jasundara says that necessary arrangements have been finalized to issue the results of GCE A-level examination soon. Inspecting of answer scripts of the exam have already been completed. That came to you in main news.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, the Mid Department has issued an amber warning for heavy rains in Sabaragamuwa province and in Nuwara district today. Due to the southwest monsoon that has established over the island, the prevailing rain and wind conditions are expected to continue further, the Mid Department said. Heavy showers above 100 mm are likely at some places in Sabaragamuwa province and in Nuwara district. Fairly heavy showers about 75 mm are likely at some places in western and northwestern provinces and in Kandy, Galle and Mathura districts, it added. Meanwhile, the Met Department also issued an advisory for strong winds in the western slopes of the Central Hills and northern, north central, western, southern and northwestern provinces and in Trincomalee district, effective for the next 24 hours. That came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Moving on to the headlines of the world news, Kenya police to arrive in Haiti in 3 weeks. Israeli activists battle over Gaza-bound aid convoys. Hundreds feared dead in massive Papua New Guinea landslide. Now the world news in detail. Kenya's President William Ruto says his peacekeeping police force is expected to arrive in Haiti to help quell growing gang violence in about 3 weeks. In an exclusive interview with the BBC, Mr. Ruto confirmed a planning team was already in Haiti and had met local police to secure arrangements before the Kenyan troops are deployed. Mr. Ruto's comments came as he concluded a 3-day trip to Washington, D.C., the first official state visit of any African leader to the U.S. in over 15 years. Months after some Israelis started to protest against aid lorries entering Gaza at the main Kerem Shalom crossing, the battle has moved to other key junctions where rival groups of activists do their best to block or protect aid convoys. In recent weeks, social media has been flooded with images of aid lorries being blocked and ransacked. Right-wing activists, including Jewish settlers living in the occupied West Bank, have uploaded dozens of videos of crowds, including some very young children, hurling food onto the ground and stamping on boxes of aid. It's important to stop the aid, one activist says. A massive landslide is feared to have killed hundreds of people after it struck remote villages in Papua New Guinea, local officials and aid agencies said. The landslide buried more than 100 homes after it struck around yesterday in the highlands of Enga, north of the island nation in the southwest Pacific. It was not immediately clear how many people were trapped in the rubble. Enga Governor Peter Ipatis told AFP news agency it was an unprecedented natural disaster. Andrew Rueng, a community leader, told Reuters news agency that people had been asleep when the landslide struck. More than 300 lives have been covered by the debris and rocks, he said. That ends World News. Prior to concluding, the headlines of the World News once again. Kenya police to arrive in Haiti in 3 weeks. Israeli activists battle over Gaza-bound aid convoys. Hundreds are feared dead in massive Papua New Guinea landslide. That ends World News.
Development News.
The Karapitia town in Galle will be developed. The illegal constructions in the town have been removed. The government's objective is to develop the town with all facilities. All development activities in the town will be completed before the end of this year. That was Development News.
Moving on with Sports News.
Sri Lanka's Yupun Abekun has won the first place in the men's 100 meters event at the Anholt Athletic Championship 2024 in Germany. The Sri Lankan sprinter took first place with the timing of 10.16 seconds in the final yesterday. He had secured a place in the final after finishing first in the Heat 1 as well with a timing of 10.15 seconds, a season best so far for the sprinter. That came to you in sports news.
Go ekak tiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Sri Lanka's service exports for the month of April 2024 increased by 19.28% to reach $300.41 million over the corresponding period of 2023. Furthermore, the estimated value of ICT exports is expected to increase by 21.6% to $120.69 million in April 2024 when compared to April 2023. That came to you in business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak tiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Moving on to economic news. The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce calls on all political parties to support the continuity of SOE reforms and the reform momentum building on the economic stability achieved. The Chamber stresses that it is vital to prioritize and implement the reforms related to state-owned enterprises, energy and fiscal management to ensure that the country does not revert to a crisis. It is crucial that all political parties focus on Sri Lanka's long-term sustainability and avoid leveraging the reform process for short-term election gains. That came to you in economic news.
Weather report.
Finally, we take a look at the weather report. Due to the southwest monsoon conditions, the prevailing showery and windy conditions are expected to continue, says the Met Department. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in western, Sabaragamuwa, central, northwestern and southern provinces. Heavy showers above 100 mm are likely at some places in Sabaragamuwa province and in Nuwara district. Fairly heavy showers about 75 mm are likely at some places in western and northwestern provinces and in Kandy, Galle and Mathura districts. Several spells of showers will occur in northern and north-central provinces, the department said. Strong winds of about 50 to 60 km per hour can be expected at times over western slopes of the central hills and in northern, north-central, western, southern and northwestern provinces and in Trincomalee district. That was the weather report. Prior to concluding this bulletin of news, the headlines once again. President inaugurates Women's Healthcare Centre at Kilinochchi Hospital. The President said that several measures have been taken to safeguard the women's rights. The Disaster Management Centre says that 44,398 people of 19 districts have been affected by the prevailing bad weather condition. The Ministry of Power says that 431,500 power disruption have been reported due to the heavy rains. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka issued broad guidelines to licensed banks. With that, we conclude the news and over to my friend, and certainly yours is all geared up to keep you entertained with a wonderful collection of music. Over to you, Dilshan.
Well, thank you so much, Sabrina, for the news at 1:15. And yes, the time right now is 1:29. Very good afternoon to you, and also wishing you, Sabrina, a beautiful and blessed day ahead. And you are with Radio Sri Lanka on 97.4 and 97.6 and also on the web at www.slbc.lk. And in a short while it's going to be lunchtime music.